Hello everyone! In this video, we are going to talk about unknown words and how we can understand them when we see them in a reading passage without using a dictionary. It's normal to see some unknown words when especially we are doing an exam, such as TOEFL and IELTS, because there are some words that are some terms related to specific fields. Therefore, it's normal to see them. What we can't do is use a dictionary because first, it's an exam. Second, even if we could use a dictionary, we wouldn't be able to take a look at every word that we didn't know. So we need some different techniques. The sentences that are used in this material do not belong to me. You can simply find the passages on, like, if you go to Google and if you write IELTS practice exam, you will come up, there will be many different websites that you can use. And basically, that's what I did for the material that I used in this video. So I do not I do not own any of them. Let's see. First, don't panic. Take a look and try to understand the general idea. Let's read together. The amount of time people spend watching TV is astonishing. On average, individuals in the industrialized world devote 3 hours a day to the activity, fully half of their leisure time, and more than on any single activity except work and sleep. Okay, so there might be some words that you don't know. Maybe you know all the words in this reading passage, in these sentences. That's also okay because we will see some different sentences, some different parts. Also, learning the techniques, learning how to figure out the meaning of a word will help you in the long run. First, what we need to do is that we need to find the tone of the passage, which is the way the writer tells us the topic. If the writer is trying to tell us the advantages of a topic, or the disadvantages of a topic, or a comparison, or a contradiction between an advantage and a disadvantage of a topic, it could also be an introduction of a topic, or it might talk about a disease or a research. So the tone might be positive, which means the writer supports that idea. It might be neutral, which means the writer basically gives us information, in an objective way, or it could be negative, which means the writer is against that idea. Why is this important to find the tone of the passage? Because the words we might not know can be adjectives. Adjectives gives us extra meaning for the words. So if the tone is negative, the adjective will be probably 99% of the time negative. Or if the writer has a positive approach, then the adjective is highly likely to be very positive. Let's find the tone of this passage. The amount of time people spend watching TV is astonishing. On average, individuals in the industrialized world devote 3 hours a day to the activity, fully half of their leisure time, and more than on any single activity except work and sleep. Now we can simply see that the writer is giving us information about how much time people spend watching TV. We can also see that it's excessive. It says fully half of their leisure time, and more than on any single activity, of course, except work and sleep. We can simply gather that by looking at the whole paragraph or the whole passage, or by focusing on the objective, the main idea of the writer. Second, we need to figure out the function of the word in the sentence. Function means, is the word a verb, an action? Is it an adjective? Is it an adverb? Is it a noun? So what's the purpose? Why is the word there? That's the whole idea. The amount of time people spend watching TV is astonishing. So the bold ones are the ones that I think might be problematic for an average English speaker, maybe a little bit above average English speaker or learner. So astonishing is an adjective here, right? And because we understand it, because the amount of time is astonishing. And on average, individuals in the industrialized world devote 3 hours a day. It's an action, it's a verb, because it comes after individuals. On average, individuals devote 3 hours. Find out how the word affects the others around it or what it connects to. Now, for the first one, astonishing, we find that it's connected to the amount of time people spend watching TV. So we're focusing on the amount here. Yes, as we said, this is an adjective, and it refers to the amount of time. It should be something that can define, that can give extra information about the amount of time. So yes, we can say funny, a funny person. Funny is also an adjective, but the amount of time cannot be funny. It can be shocking, it can be devastating, it can be surprising, but it cannot be funny, it cannot be sad. Well, it can be disappointing, but disappointing and sad are two different things. So it's something that can be, it's an adjective that can be connected to the amount of time people spend watching TV. And if we continue reading, it says on average, individuals in the industrialized world devote 3 hours a day to the activity, fully half of their leisure time, and more than on any single activity except work and sleep. Now we can see that it's a little bit excessive than usual. By usual, I mean the given criteria. Yes, fully half of their leisure time is a little bit excessive than usual, we can say. So we see that astonishing has a little bit of a shocking meaning. When we take a look at the rest, we can see that. Therefore, we can simply assume, making an educated guess, we can simply assume that astonishing has a meaning similar to shocking or surprising. So an educated guess is a little bit different than just a guess. Because an educated guess means that yes, it's a guess, but you have reasons to believe that the guess is correct. But just a guess is something that you just, okay, I'll pick A. That's a guess. But if you say that, oh, okay, the previous 3 questions were A, so this should be B, then that's an educated guess, whether it's correct or not. So what we do here is that we made an educated guess because we read the following and then we said, oh, okay, so it might mean surprising or shocking. If it were simply a guess, then we would say, okay, astonishing is an adjective, so it's devastating. We could do that. That would be a guess. But because we need to make an educated guess because we are solving questions, in an exam such as TOEFL and IELTS, we want to be specific. Moving on to devote. On average, individuals in the industrialized world devote 3 hours a day to the activity. Now, we should keep in mind that the sentences in a reading passage, in a paragraph, are connected to each other. They have to be connected to each other. They can't appear out of the blue and just, be there. That's not possible. So what happens is that it's connected to the previous or the following sentence. And which is what happened in the second sentence. On average, individuals. Which individuals? Individuals in the industrialized world. But why are we talking about this? Because the first sentence says, the amount of time people spend watching TV is astonishing. So when we say on average individuals, we're talking about the same thing, people. So on average individuals, people, in the industrialized world devote 3 hours a day. So the first sentence talked about the amount of time people spend watching TV, and second sentence says individuals devote 3 hours a day. So it's more specific than the first sentence, but it kind of gives the same idea, don't you think? Because individuals say people, because the amount of time, we say 3 hours in the next sentence. So we can simply say spend could mean something similar to devote, or devote could mean something similar to spend, which would be an educated guess and which would lead us to find a sensible meaning. Yes, maybe devote doesn't have that meaning, but here, spend and devote are very similar to each other. So we made an educated guess. We have some ideas. We said astonishing means surprising or shocking. Devote means to spend. Now what we need to do next is that, yes, stop here. Don't spend too much time on the word. Unless it's a keyword. If it's a keyword, then probably the word will be asked about in the questions. IELTS, well, in IELTS, we don't have those kinds of questions. We don't have word questions. We don't have vocabulary questions. But in TOEFL, we do. So what we can do is that if it's a keyword, yes, spend a little bit more time on it. But if it's not a keyword, if it's just a word there, and if it doesn't stop you from understanding the whole passage, then don't spend too much time on the word, because there might be other words that you're not familiar with in the following parts, which might be more important. And the time is limited, so we shouldn't focus only on one word when we see them. And it will stop us from understanding the passage overall. Let's see another example, right? For over 200 years, there has been an interest in the way children learn to speak and understand their first language. Scholars carried out several small-scale studies, especially towards the end of the 19th century, using data they recorded in parental diaries. Now let's remember our steps, right? Step 1, find the tone. This one, just like the first one, is an introductory one. So we find the tone because it doesn't have any specific ideas from the writer. Second step, figure out the function of the words. Are they nouns? Are they adjectives, subjects, verbs? What are they? Now, the S at the end of the word, the S at the end of the word tells us that this is plural. Same thing happens with diaries as well. So, they carried out several small-scale studies, recorded parental diaries, and this one is also, well, grammatically it wouldn't be correct to say they here or them here, but this is also plural, right? So scholars should be a subject, the subject of the second sentence. How do we know this? It comes in the beginning of the sentence, which is the sentence structure in English language. Second, it comes before the verb of the sentence. So, carried out several small-scale studies, which means this is our subject and this is a noun. Third step, we find out how the word affects the others. So, this, let's remember, is the subject. Now, the subject does the action, right? It says, the action is carried out several small-scale studies. I'm just a teacher. I can't carry out several small-scale studies. I can't do that. The people who can carry out small-scale studies, who can carry out studies, are the people in that specific area of expertise, which means it can be scientists, researchers, linguists. And in this scenario, because we're talking about learning to speak and understand their first language, probably linguists or scientists. Because first, it's plural, scholars. Second, they should be such kind of people that they can carry out studies. And third, they carry out studies about speaking, about language. So we can understand that scholars is either linguists or scientists, maybe researchers. And that was my educated guess for scholars. So I followed 4 steps. Step 1, find the tone. Step 2, figure out the function. 3, find out how the word affects the others. And 4, make an educated guess. The educated guess part actually comes naturally when we figure out the function and the relationship between the words. It comes naturally. Simply your brain just does the job for you. Moving on to diaries. Scholars carried out several small-scale studies, especially towards the end of the 19th century, using data they recorded in parental diaries. Now, diary normally means journal, yes. It means the notebook that people keep their feelings written in, or the things that happen to them every day. But it's not possible that researchers or linguists or scientists followed and recorded parents' diaries so they can learn how a child learns to speak and understand the first language. That would not be very possible. That's why we can simply assume that this diaries here has a different meaning. Now, we need to find the connections between the words. Scholars, blah, blah, blah. They recorded. Who recorded? Scholars recorded. What did they record? They recorded data from the diaries of people, of parents. We can simply assume that it's background. Could be background, language background, school background, or simply like family background. We need to read the passage as a whole to understand the whole thing, the whole idea. But we have some ideas here, right? Just by looking at these 4 easy steps, we can simply understand or make an educated guess at least to find a similar meaning. Let's see another one, right? Urbanities had to seek locations to dispose of the wastes they produced. Now, let's see. This urbanities urbanites had to seek locations to dispose of the wastes they produced. Now, this is simply a sentence taken from a paragraph from a passage, which means we can't really get the whole idea of the passage. But because we're only focusing on one word, dispose, let's see what we can make do, right? Urbanites. This word comes from the word urban, which means the people who live there. Now, I'm giving you the meaning because we're just focusing on one word. But if you see this word in a reading passage, you can simply follow the 4 easy steps. Find the tone, figure out the function, find out how the word affects the others, make an educated guess, and then we would be able to find the meaning of urbanite. But we're focusing on dispose now. Urbanites had to seek locations. They needed to look for places to blah, blah, blah of the wastes they produced. Now, they produced wastes, and they need to find some places to what the wastes? Now, we can't find the tone because we don't know the whole passage, but the function is a verb. It's a verb. It's an action. And the word is directly connected to waste because dispose of the wastes. And because it's a waste, what do we do with the waste? We get rid of them. We either collect them or we get rid of them. I'm making an educated guess based on the word wastes and based on the fact that dispose is a verb. And this educated guess could be confirmed by just reading the following sentences. Another one. But while providing an inexpensive and plentiful energy supply, coal was also very dirty. Okay, so first I'm just thinking out loud. First, I think the writer talked about the advantages of coal. And I get this idea because it says, while providing an inexpensive and plentiful energy supply, it was very dirty. Now, I'm expecting the writer to say something negative, to continue talking about the disadvantage of coal. It was very dirty, so it means I'm going to explain it further. The cities that used it, the cities that used coal, suffered from air contamination and reduced sunlight, while the cleaning tasks of householders were greatly increased. Now, we can find the tone of this passage because it's negative. How do we know? First, it starts with but, which means it's contradicting maybe the previous sentence or maybe the clause that it has after it. No, wait, the cursor right here. Okay, the clause right here. Providing an inexpensive and plentiful energy supply, this is a positive thing. But it's dirty, 1. Suffer, 2. Reduced sunlight, 3. Cleaning task increase, 4. There are 4 words or chunks that show us that the tone of this, is negative. So then I can simply assume that the adjectives that are used here could be negative. This is the tone. Second, the function of contamination. Air contamination and reduced sunlight. This is a noun. Now, there are a couple of more techniques to figure out if a word is a noun, and I'm going to talk about it in another video. But right now, the nation at the end of it tells us, first, this word is a noun. Second, air contamination tells us that air contamination is a chunk and contamination is a noun that's directly connected to air. Third, yes, find out how the word affects the other words, and it's directly connected to air contamination and is something that cities suffer from. So it's something negative. I'm making an educated guess because it talks about coal, it says very dirty, and cities suffer from it. And then when we continue reading, we see reduced sunlight. I'm guessing it means dirt, contamination, air Contamination means maybe air pollution. And coal is known to cause that, right? So this is an educated guess. I'm not sure, but if I continue reading, I'll probably figure out whether I'm right or wrong. That's it. I hope this video has helped. And just before we say goodbye, I want you to remember, find the tone, figure out the function, figure out how the word affects the others, and make your educated guess. But don't forget, just do not spend too much time on it, unless it's a keyword. And don't panic, it happens to everyone, right? It's normal that there are words that we don't know, and it's okay to try to figure it out. But if we panic, we can't. Right? Keep up the good work, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.